Robin's in chat. Jake, do you want to join the Zoom meeting too?
Yeah.
Might as well. Yeah, guys, we're gonna start in a couple of minutes. But for now, make sure that you have the files on in the Discord downloaded. It's in the EGaDS events channel, and it's that GitHub link. It is that GitHub link. And if you can't find it, let me know. I can help you out. Oh, really? Sorry. You can have both, honestly. They have their own. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like my hard drive.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, those are pretty good at their own thing.
If you could only have one, which would you have? Just Blender's Jake's kind of a Blender fanboy. Oh, really? Yeah. I should move this Blender Yeah, I've always thought that Blender is just easier to pick up.
Yeah, and it's free.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
I think the same thing, the easy to pick up thing applies to Unreal and Unity. Yeah. Maybe you don't have hard drive space because you have an Unreal Engine on your computer. That thing's like 40 gigabytes. What?
Yeah, you have to strip out literally everything, but like the templates, it's 16 gigabytes.
Oh, I did not know that.
Adding on any of the assets, that's our automatic 50,000 gigabytes.
Whoa.
Like 5 terabytes stuff.
That's wild. Okay. I didn't know like you could go below the default.
Yeah, the this is your documentation 5.0.
Oh.
5.0
Okay.
is so.
Really? Okay. I should try it. I've only done 4.0. All right. I guess for now, I'm gonna do introductions. Hi, my name's Alex. I am the Unity Workshop Officer. That's Diego. He's waving at me back there. He's a junior officer. And for this semester, we're going to be talking about 3D game development. In the spring, or in the fall, we do 2D, and now we're doing our 3D component. And what should I do? Fun facts. I've gotten 30 amp bytes at once before. Jake.
I used to be able to pop this elbow on command.
Wait, why'd you start with your fun fact? No one needs to know your name, but they do need to know.
Oh, I'm Jake. And that was the thing that I used to be able to do, but now I can't. So that is interesting, I guess.
You can try.
I did try. Oh, you didn't like be as interesting as.
Oh no, I didn't mean that. Oh my god, I'm not that mean.
I thought you could
Do you want me
You should move
to? Okay. Today we're doing an intro to Unity 3D, and this is just a little bit of an overview of what are the basic differences between 3D and 2D. You get another D. This might not seem that important, but it is, because even if you just think about it in terms of volume, if you have a 2D square, the volume, it exponentially increases as you add another dimension. And this has a lot of implications on level design, programming requirements, other things. Another thing that will be very important that we'll kind of cover today is that you're going to be using meshes instead of sprites. And meshes are just 3D objects with vertices and faces and edges, and they behave very differently from sprites. And that's the camera relative movement. This is more of a programmer thing. It's just a way that I'll be looking at the fundamental differences in 3D as opposed to 2D. So this is an example of what you can do with 3D as opposed to 2D. I chose Octopath Traveler here because it's sort of a blend between the two. They have 2D sprites for their characters and some of their other UI, but their environment, and especially their lighting, their shaders, their effects are mostly 3D. And this is not something that's possible in purely 2D. And it's so important because, wow, this looks really good. And they definitely were able to create a larger environment faster and more efficiently by using 3D models. Okay, so let's get started with actually opening up Unity. We forgot to say that you should install Unity in the announcement, but if you do have Unity, if you don't have Unity, try to download it now. You can, this is being recorded, so if you wanted to, you can come back to this in the future. But for now, we're just going to be making sure we have Unity downloaded and creating a new project. It doesn't matter which version. I'm just gonna be doing 2019. And we're using the 3D template. Call this workshop. Okay. Blender's website? Really? Isn't? Yeah, Blender's like less than a gigabyte, right?
It's very 200 megabytes.
Wow.
It's only like 300 kilobytes.
We do not. But yeah. Oh yeah, you guys can't see my Unity project opening, but it is. Usually takes a while. I should have done this before class, but whatever.
Scrambling for food and then getting.
Everything's closed. Why is everything closed at the time where people eat? I don't get it.
Specifically us.
Well, it's like 5 and 6. That's dinner time.
Dinner time's like 6 plus.
When do you guys eat dinner? Because I've always been interested in this. There's like no consistent answer. At 9:30? 8 to 9? Really? Uh-huh. There was a Taco Bell. It was the saving grace. This is the worst year. Okay. Right. So I have my Unity project open. I'm gonna keep on going with the slides though, because there's just a little bit more I want to get through. All right. So I'm gonna make my point about camera relative movement that I did before. If you're in 2D, well, the ways that you're moving are directly connected to the ways you have to control your character, right? It's to the right of the character, to the left. You can jump to go up. But once you're in 3D, you can sometimes have this 2D perspective where it behaves like you would expect. but usually you can change the angle of your camera. Maybe the camera does it by itself. And suddenly when you're moving right, you're not necessarily just moving right on screen. You're moving right of the character or right of the camera. And I just want to bring this up because it's important to start thinking about these implications when working in 3D. Some helpful resources that you guys can look at. I'm going to be posting this slide, Google Slides in the server after the workshop. And just to really hammer my point home, why do we bother again? Whoops. If you see that Mario is like straight downwards, the control scheme is really ambiguous. If I'm going right, do I, go right off the planet, or do I like go along the planet? Do I go right of Mario, or like downwards more so in this picture? Because if you rotate the camera, you would go right if you press right. That might be kind of hard to visualize. So I have a different example of why 3D is important. With sprites, you'll have so many different sprites or animations that you need to do if you want a wide range of movement with your character. For this knight, these are animations for different directions that the knight could move. And just this, for a smaller game, it's not really feasible. It's kind of a waste of time, in my opinion. Not to say that like it's bad in all circumstances, but I want to make sure that you guys know the other options. This game over here, this is EGaDS, and it's kind of similar perspective as this one. So you can rotate 360 with your character, and there's like attacking animations and everything. But it looks 2D, but in the actual game, it's a 3D model. And this is all 3D. This is done with a 3D model with shaders that make it look more 2D. And this is important because if I was gonna have all of these different perspectives for all the different attack animations, dodge animations, I would be dead before I finish the game. So yeah, 3D is definitely a worthwhile investment of your time. All right, I'm gonna move over to the opened Unity project. And just to start off with, we're assuming that people will have no prior knowledge of how to use Unity. So I'm gonna go through the basics first. Right here is a window called the hierarchy. It contains all the objects that are in your scene. Right now, there's nothing in the scene other than a camera and a light. So you can see that I can select these objects, and that's going to open up the inspector tab where I can actually look at the properties of each of these objects. Every game object comes with a transform. A transform defines the physical properties of a game object, like the position or the rotation. With the camera, it's kind of weird. The camera's like a cone, so you can kind of see it rotating. Even the scale, that's not going to do anything on the camera though. And the way that Unity works is by having these game objects in the scene and attaching scripts to them that give these game objects functionality. From these scripts, you can get information about the game object itself, or you can make systems that give it information about other game objects and the world. And you can start to create bigger and bigger systems with these game objects that each have components on them. And we can write our own components. Let's move on to this window, the project window. I'm realizing that I never actually downloaded the package. Let me get that. Okay, so if you have the zip file downloaded, it's not a Unity package, so you can just drag the folder directly into Unity to import them. I just dragged in this models folder, and for Unity, it's compatible with most file types. And you'll be able to see that it automatically got these in. If you just try to import the zip file, it's not going to work because that's not a recognized file type. Okay. So in this file folder, I included a couple of different models just to kind of help you visualize what models in Unity how they work and what they look like. So I'm going to drag over this model into the scene. It's really big right now, so I'm going to decrease that. You might notice that if I change this, not much actually changes. So I'm going to change the object inside of it. And I'm going to say like 0.1. Okay. So I'm still inside of it, right? So I'll talk about this window now. The scene window is where you can actually see your world. To traverse through this, there are a couple of different controls that you need to know. Right click is to, I don't know what this is called, to look around, I guess. You can use middle click to pan. If you're holding right click and you press WASD, it's almost like you're moving within that world. And you can press shift to make it go faster. Alt left click.
Instead of like right click where you like move around like that, it's like more similar to like Maya.
It's like this.
Maya looking.
Like this. No. Like what? Huh? I don't know. Sorry, what? Yes. For it to go around, I'm right clicking and then also pressing WASD. Exactly, yeah. And you guys might notice that your cameras are moving slower than mine. And if you click on this camera icon up here, you can see that you can actually customize the flying camera controls. And I have mine pretty high because this is a pretty big model. Yeah. And the parameters that matter are down here. Camera acceleration means that if you're like holding a direction, you'll gradually get faster and faster. That's good for like really big maps, but honestly, we don't need that. So I'm gonna turn it off. And I have my camera controls about here. Okay. So let's look at that transform component I pointed out earlier. Yeah, it's just the basic things: position, rotation in all the different axes, scale. And you have a lot of freedom on how these are controlled. An important part about how transforms work is that every game object, when you're using a script on them, you can immediately and very easily access the transform. So in a lot of scripts, you'll be moving things around by accessing the transform or changing the scale, that kind of thing. Okay. Now that we know how to import a 3D model, let's talk about how game objects might interact. I forget which one it is. I think I'm gonna do rigged. Big sands. I'm going to zero out his coordinates. That's something weird weird about Unity. Sometimes when you're placing things into the scene, the coordinate the coordinate things are kind of weird. Okay. Wait, actually, I need to make sure I'm not not letting somebody in. Okay. Look at Sans just hiding in the ground. He's rising out of the ground. He's ascending. Okay, so oh god, this is a terrible idea. Okay. Let me show something off. If I think I can just change this into something else. Okay. So with most models, the way they work in Unity is that you'll import the actual model itself, but you'll also import some sort of UV map or sprite that can help Unity know how to color that model. So it's important that you have both. And sometimes you'll call these UV maps or sprites textures. And really it's just a way for Unity to know, or Unity to carry over what your 3D model looks like from whatever program you're using, Blender, Maya, into Unity. And Unity is also good about being able to chain. No, never mind. Unity is good about being able to change materials. So for example, if I not that either. Oh, okay, my bad. Okay, so say I want brick sands. Now he's a brick. Okay, yeah. Okay. You know what then? Grass sands. No. Default material sands. Okay. Is that here? I don't remember. Is it here? Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh, geez. Okay. Yeah. So, right. Yeah. This sort of lighting is kind of the base models, and it doesn't look that great, right? In Unity and especially 3D development, a large part of making it actually look good has a lot to do with shaders and lighting and model detail, and that's all the stuff that we'll be covering in future workshops. Okay, so I said I would actually make these two interact. To do that, we're going to be using some built-in Unity components that are that are going to be useful for giving our objects collision and physics. So on my Sans model, I'm going to click model on the inside of it, and I'm going to add a mesh collider. And mesh colliders give the colliders a hitbox in the shape of whatever the mesh is. Normally you'd be able to see a green outline, but I think it's kind of hidden by that. And I'm also Is it? Oh. Okay. Cool. And also, I'm gonna give it a rigid body. And make sure you're not doing the 2D variant of these components. Okay. So, dang it. I keep on forgetting. If you're gonna move your model around, make sure you're doing it at the parent, not the child level. Yeah. Because if you're doing it at the parent, it's just gonna keep everything inside of it together and moving at the same place. Okay. So in Unity, you can parent objects to other objects. And this means that any changes to their transform will also be applied to their children. So say I scale up the parent here by 2, everything within it is also gonna be scaled up by 2. And then you get wide sands. And this includes the mesh collider here. So it really is like everything inside the child. This is useful for organizational things. Sometimes you can use this to make animations look better. Sometimes you can do this for code logic things. It's a very powerful a thing you can do with game objects. Okay, so let me also show you guys what this does. This is a play button. As you can see, it's like a triangle. And if you press it, your scene runs. Right now, my camera is inside of the actual model, but I'm going to press pause. So the scene is still running, but it's paused right now. And I can actually go around the scene and see how things are interacting while they're in runtime. I'm going to go back here and I'm actually going to go to scene here. Oh, okay. I did something wrong. I put the rigid body on the model itself, which is now falling into infinity. We're going to put that on the model. I can also like copy the component, remove it, and press these dots over here, paste component as new, and it's gonna put the same thing here, or you can just, add component, type it in, search it up, add it. Okay, so I'm gonna do the same thing again. I'm going to go into play mode. It's gonna put me on the game tab, but I wanna look at scene because my camera is currently inside the model, and Wide Sands is going to hell where he belongs. Okay. Now that we've seen some physics with our objects, let's actually give it something to collide with. If we click on our fortress planet, let's go down to the default. A lot of materials here. And let's add a collider again. There are a lot of different kinds of colliders. We want the mesh collider. And now that the model has the mesh collider, let's go up to here and add the rigid body. Okay, so we don't want our fortress to fall. We want it to be kinematic. Kinematic means that a object with this rigid body can still move if you do it through code, but it won't be affected by forces that are applied to it, like gravity. Maybe something else bumps into it, it's not going to like go offline. And this is useful for when you want like level geometry. Yes.
It's the 2D version.
Whoops, sorry. Yeah, that goes for the 2D rigid body. We're not going to be using gravity. Is kinematic too. Yeah. And also, you guys can move the camera if you want, just to make it so that you don't need to go to the scene view if you don't want to. Dang it. I thought I put collider on here. Maybe it needs to be on the rig. No, that's not it. Okay.
Maybe use a capsule collider instead of.
All right. True. Dang it. I'm too used to doing 2D. Capsule Collider kind of works like a more in-depth circle or sphere collider. You can extend it in one axis. Okay, whatever. It doesn't need to be accurate. And I'm gonna replace this one with just a box collider, a huge box collider. And I'm just gonna make it smaller. You can edit your collider bounds with this button. I have no idea if that's correct or not. All right, totally accurate box colliders. Got a scene. Wow, they collide. Sand doesn't go to hell anymore. Both. Yeah. And oh, whoops. Yeah, so that's just a basic physics collision in Unity. You can also detect these. You can also detect these through code. And for a lot of physics things, you're going to be doing this. There he goes. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and ask for questions. And then after the questions, I'm going to go into how we might do a little bit of basic scripting. All right, questions. Are there questions? We can do questions about Unity basics, anything in general. Okay. Let's go on to scripting then. So I'm not sure. I don't think Unity comes default with a code editor. It does now? Okay. Okay, cool. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna right click on our project window and open C# project. And that's just to make sure that your code editor is opening while we do this next thing. I'm gonna right click. I'm going to go up to create and I'm going to make a C# script. This is a component that would be adding to our game object that will give some functionality to it. Let's call this sans, why not? I'm gonna double click it. That's gonna open it in my code editor. If anybody needs to see that again, I just double click that. And I made that by right clicking and going into create right here. Okay. So this is a basic Unity C# script. It comes with two functions, and they do what this comment says. Start is called the very first frame this object exists. If you press play and you already have game objects in the scene, this is going to be called immediately. And the other function is called update. And this function is called every single frame. And this can be used for sensing input or just anything that continuously needs to happen. Okay, so let's do something really basic. Let's make an if statement in the update function. And let's just say input.getKey down. Let's say space. So if you press space, input is the input package for Unity, and this function will return true if you press that key, that the frame it's called. And if you're pressing space, then let's say make your transform.position equal the transform position, but plus a vector of like 10 in the y-axis. So whenever you press space, you're gonna go up by 10 units. Yeah, that's just my code editor being stupid. So now that I made this script, I need to attach it to my model. And if I play, oh, dang it, wait, okay. I actually need to move my camera because you can only use input while you're in the game scene. I'm pretty sure it's this, no. Okay, so I'm just gonna try to angle the camera in a way where I can see the model. Okay, cool. All right. Okay. Oh, my aspect ratio is weird too. It's so weird. Okay. So my script is on sans, and if I press space, he rises. He can do it himself. Yeah, so really basic script. Let's add some functionality or some customizability to it. Yeah, we're making sans more powerful, basically. So I mean, we probably won't die. So we're gonna add a variable. Let's call it like ascend speed. This is a float, which is just a number, and we're gonna replace this 10 that we used here with ascend speed. You might notice that we didn't give it a value, and that's because if you have a public variable in your script in Unity, when you look at where you put that script, you can actually see that that value is serialized. It's something that you can change. And let's put 10 here. And in play mode, you can see it does the same thing. Well, you might be questioning yourself, why did we do that in the first place? Well, say I didn't know I wanted Sans to ascend at a speed of 10. In play mode, I can now dynamically change what this value is, and I can adjust it accordingly to what I'm seeing on screen. And this is really useful for iterating quickly. Something to keep in mind though, when you're doing this kind of thing, when you're changing your serialized value in play mode, once you go out of play mode, all your changes will be reset. So it's back to 10, and whatever I did is gone. And it's very important that when you're working inside of Unity, that you do not make major changes while you're working on stuff, because while you're in play mode, because it's all gonna get erased. Say I'm not feeling this fortress, I want to make a completely different game. Oh wait, I'm in play mode, it's all back. But that is useful for testing, for seeing how things work with each other, because you can just move stuff around and fiddle with it. You might also notice that's why I have the editor change colors when I press play. It's to make sure that I always know when I'm in play mode. Okay, so that was what I wanted to cover for that. Should I go over anything else? Yes.
Go back to the scripts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is there anything else I should cover? Anything important? Yes. Oh, okay, yeah. Definitely, you're right. Okay. I'll also do a public game object field. So, okay. Sans has world bending properties, right? Well, not that. Say you make a variable called public game object. This is the class that we've been using this entire time. And we'll call it the level. And let's also say that we want to, we also want to access our own rigid body. And we'll call it RB right now. The way that we'll access our own rigid body is by doing RB equals get component. And this is the syntax, rigid body. So a couple things about scripting in Unity. There are a couple of key keywords that are important to know. You saw me use one of them, transform, down here. That just gives you access to your game objects transform, that component. But if you don't want to actually look at the transform, you can just say game object. And this is referencing the game object that the script is on. And when you see a function like this, like get component, it's implied that it means game object dot get component. So you could theoretically do the same thing where you take the field of level and you do get component on that. And this is how you can access information from different game objects and different components. Okay, but for now, we're going to keep it at this rigid body, get the rigid body. And let's give Sans more functionality. Else if, let's say input dot get key down key code. Jeez. Key code dot, why is it? Oh my god. Key code dot F. So if we press F, let's say in our rigid body, we change a value. What if we say gravity, use gravity, we set that to false, and then you can just float forever. And I'm going to copy this entire thing too. Let's say G this time. Well, what if when you press G, the level that you have a reference to, you get its component of a rigid body, and then you make its use gravity true. Okay. And this is kind of an inefficient way of doing it because every time you're pressing G, you're going to be getting the component of the level. Something you can do is also like get the component of the level up here and start and store it. So you only need to call it once, but I'm lazy and I'm not doing it that way. Okay. Does anybody need more time on this code? Okay. And I'll come back to it in a bit. But basically, now that we're in the level, Sans is falling. I'm gonna lift him up a little bit, and then I'm gonna press F. That didn't work. Oh, I know why. I never put in the level game object. This does give me an opportunity to show you something else though. Never mind. It's already gone. So I can press F, still no. If I can press G, still no. What? Else if Richard Bryan. Oh, I have an error here. Why is it telling me I have an error? That's so weird. One error in file. Use gravity true. I'm confused. That should be working. Okay, well, that's not working. It should be. I don't know why. But yeah, that is pretty much what I wanted to cover. The basics of using Unity, some of the interactions that you can do, the building blocks that you'll use to create more complex systems. Last call for questions before we go on to the art section of the workshop. Okay, if not. Oh, that's true. Right. And the level never has any, wait. Yeah, the level should work.
Oh, wait, you said it's a kinematic, right?
Oh, I did. Oh, okay.
You would just like turn off the kinematic.
Okay, in that case, I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna set the velocity to 0. Actually, we can just add code. This is a very useful way to access velocity, especially if you're doing more in-depth mechanics. Vector 3.0. And for this one, use kinematic. Yeah, so this is why I should have stored it earlier. Don't do this. Is kinematic false. Okay, G. Huh. Oh, it's doing it. And F. Amazing. Okay, cool. I'm glad that we figured that out. Yep, that's what I wanted to do. And now let's go on to Jake's section.
Just a question.
Yes.
When you use velocity at 0, is it the same thing as velocity and in parentheses 0.2?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like the vector class has a variable that is like a zero vector.
Okay.
So you don't. It's for convenience.
Mhm.
Oh, it's like inside the desk. It's weird. There's one behind you. You're already invested in trying to make
Just
that
your
work.
mouse.
Yeah, that's my mouth.
Hey, give me screen sharing
Oh.
right now. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, screen. Oh yeah, I need to plug that into there. Huh? Oh. There we go.
Database. Front page.
Wow.
In that one.
Wow. Very popular.
Right?
Yes.
Of course I gotta use it. It's iconic, apparently.
Apparently.
But the masses enjoy.
We only use the best at EGaDS.
Hi, thanks for coming. Still got like 2 minutes. Okay, are you playing Nerdle?
Okay, no, I do it. And I'm gonna do this because it just almost.
You got the first.
Wait, this only has,
It's a big
minus.
Oh.
Math. Equals 9. Okay. 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 Got it. Plus 7. Oh, let's go. Wait, okay, look how many options I have. I guess only one actually. Here, and then 16. Or you do 6 here, 14. I don't like this. Hey.
Thanks for coming. All right, it is 7 o'clock. It is time for blundering to happen.
Maybe we should wait like 5 more minutes. Because people might be coming only for this one and be late.
I guess that did happen last time, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, since I do this a lot of people here.
Yeah. All right. Well, no, no, you weren't supposed to see that. Well, I need to download Blender 3.0 anyway, so
You don't have it downloaded?
I have the other. It's
What the heck?
it's on my desktop.
Fake
It's
fanboy.
on my desktop.
I love Blender.
Oh, it's all right, I guess.
Don't be shy of it. Ask Blender out.
Good or run speed is creating a new character with run speed. If you were going between a 0 is stop and 3000 and insanely fast, you go around the world in 5 minutes.
I think a good run speed would be about 15. I would start with.
About 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
It scares me.
But they can see through it.
Why would there be 2 doors with you?
No, you're right.
Enter exit door.
Is there anything like specifically more enticing about that door as opposed to that one?
The ability to ruin someone's presentation is a lot higher.
That's true.
Go for the right door every time. It's like the Stanley Parable. Oh, it's like a first person. I don't want to say puzzle game, but it's like a
Is that
story driven game. It's like, yeah. It's like there's like this narrator, and then you just kind of like talks, like narrates over like what you're doing.
You know
And
how
then it's
people
like-
sometimes say psychological horror. It's like a psychological mundane.
Yeah, he just kind of like talks at you, and you're just like there to listen. It's kind of amazing. I should play it. Or like,
It's good.
or I think I have it. I should play it for y'all to watch.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Cause like, yeah, the narrator just kind of like pops off on you. Like
Oh,
it's just like you're given like two doors, and then he's like, the player goes through the right door, and then if you go through the left door, he was like, and the player's bad at listening or something. What was that?
Creating project here.
Oh yeah. Nice. Yes. Play games with EGaDS.
Who suggested that from the EGaDS?
Robin,
That's a good game. We actually could.
the Stanley Parable.
Yeah. We need to up our Twitch.
We gotta bring him back up. Our Twitch got broken.
Live stream game development. That's one thing that I see a considerable lack of is people that live stream how they develop games.
That's because it's usually very
It's not.
very frustrating and boring.
It's not very flashy. I guess you'll have like those moments of like, oh my gosh, Sans finally falls or something, or finally.
Yeah, but that's only significant to you.
Yeah, and it's just not as flashy as other stuff. That's true. I think it's just like being able to cut out the boring moments and being like, so I got this like shader to work and it's like super sick and cool. Any username suggestions from the class for our alumni Robin? Alumnus, I guess. Wait, is alumnus?
No.
Is alumnus plural?
is singular.
Okay.
Alumni is plural.
Okay, then our alumnus Robin.
But it'd
Wait,
be
really?
alumna
Oh.
because Robin is keeper.
Aaron
Oh,
Rodgers sucks.
Alumna.
I didn't know that's how it worked. I thought alumni was just.
I'd be very surprised if
Graduate.
anyone actually got that reference.
Plural name. So you can
Really?
you know, it's alumni. Well, alumni is okay. Anyways.
Well, Robin asked, "What if I'm many?" So like.
Oh, then I guess there'll be a hive mind.
Robinson. What a good movie.
Hold on, that's why it looks weird.
Uh, no, it was just saying. Beep, beep.
That's so fun.
What?
That was like he gets shammed.
All right. All right, it's been like 5 minutes. I need to install Blender or the new Blender, and then like y'all can see like the very first like start screen and stuff.
I just spent so much time creating a landscape that no one's gonna actually see. But it's gonna be like a 1 minute cutscene.
Sometimes it'd be like that.
And you wouldn't even be able to see it. Part of the landscape.
Just try to use it somewhere later.
See, when people are data mining your game and looking at unused assets, they'll see it. They'll be like, whoa.
Maybe if you put an ARG in there somewhere. Because those are fairly popular. Just like the formula for having a successful indie game is to viral market and to have an ARG attached to it. It's almost like guaranteed to get like thousands and thousands of views. I know that right now, it's pretty similar to those.
I believe you did have that texture that we discovered. They just sell it as an NFT. Let's steal it.
I've acquired Blender. Okay. Takes a bit, yeah. All right. Welcome to the Intro to Blender workshop.
Sorry, I have a question. Could that have been considered a plans shopping?
Oh, what?
Like you downloading Blender?
No, it can't.
The plans shopping?
It's application shopping. Anyways, I love Blender. I didn't even bother waiting to actually download the PNGs so that I could have the transparent backgrounds. I just love it. I think it's so cool. It's so fun. And I'm gonna do 2 workshops on it. There's this first one, and then later on I'll do like one that it's a little more in depth. It'll show you more things that are useful and some neat tricks that you can do with it. There's like a lot of different things in Blender that are like, it's like not only 3D software, it's also like its own video editor software, or it can be video editing software or like things of that nature. It's used a lot in films actually too, not only games, but yeah, I love Blender. It's true. Don't tell them. It's kind of embarrassing. Blender.org. Anyways, overview. We've already completed step 1, which is download Blender. Your life's already a little bit better now. Gonna it's I'll show you the basic window layout for whenever you first like enter Blender, and then like some basic shortcuts and hotkeys that I use like very liberally whenever I use it. And then we'll demo some modeling and then some more resources that y'all can study up for. I've already done that, but if you guys are still doing that, it's all good. Yeah, so this is whenever you first enter Blender, this is what you'll see. The main window is the 3D viewport in the center. Then on the right side at the top, that's like the outliner. That's kind of like the hierarchy in Unity or Unreal. And then bottom right, that's the properties window that'll have like a bunch of different things like your modifiers or your transform numbers and stuff like that. And then basic. Oh shoot. Wait, what do you, it says screen sharing. Are you even, he's not even looking actually. We have one friend in the Zoom. But
there is an option. And to record.
But yeah, I'm not exactly gonna like talk through all of these. These are just for y'all's like viewing after we're done for like everything that I did and stuff. But main buttons that you'll be using is middle mouse button and the GRS keys. Those are like the main buttons that I usually use whenever using Blender. But yeah, there's like different ways to access the tools in Blender. There's like the hotkeys, of course, but they have like good visual indicators on how to access their tools and stuff. And like I lined it out for y'all just to make it easy to find that info and stuff. Yeah, gonna go through all these. It's just gonna be demo time. We're gonna make a low poly switch because that's pretty simple and straightforward, easy shape, and it's kind of cute, you know. And then also at the end of the slideshow, these are links to all the Blender, the full list of Blender shortcuts, not just, these are just like the main ones that I use, but it wouldn't hurt to know more. And then a list of all the modifiers, which I'll explain more while we're doing the demo. And then a 10-minute video explaining all the modifiers in like a quick, succinct way so that you know more stuff. How do you make the you gotta click Control tab to bring out the radial menu. Okay, we'll open up Blender. And Blender's like relatively lightweight, especially compared to Maya. It loads up so much faster and does everything just so much quicker. It's so nice. I mean, Maya has its uses. I think Maya is better for animating and has like some certain features that are like more fleshed out than Blender's tool set, but Blender's like kind of like an all-around good 3D software. at this point in time, it wasn't always the case, but after it reached like 2.8 to 3.0, it is very, very usable in the industry. But yeah, we're just gonna keep the default Blender shortcuts because that's what I'm used to. Some people like using the industry compatible one, which is it's good if you're going from Maya to Blender, but if you're going from Blender to Maya, or if you're like starting out with Blender, I think the Blender shortcuts make more sense overall. And I feel like the workflow using the shortcuts is a bit faster. And either way, each software has its own like set of shortcuts. So I think it's like, it's easier to just like learn them all by muscle memory than to like try to finagle having like one key set that applies to everything, because it's just kind of, I don't know, it just makes more sense to me that way. All right, so once you enter the scene, you'll just see this cute little cube. This is known as the Blender cube. Everyone loves it, but everyone also deletes it because that is an inevitable thing to happen if you don't need a cube in that moment in time. But yeah, you can see this is, I kind of explained it all in the slides, but just going through the rundown again. Middle mouse button rotates the viewport camera. Shift middle mouse button pans the camera. You can also use these top right thingy-mabobs to zoom in and out, or pan, or rotate the camera. And then left mouse button selects objects. First, we're gonna select these two objects. We're gonna press X to delete them because we don't need a light or a camera to model a switch. I guess we'll just get right to it. First, we're gonna select the cube, our cute little cube. We're gonna press Tab. That'll take us into edit mode. There's like a bunch of modes that exist in Blender right now. You can see which mode you're in the top left-hand corner. Right now we're in object mode. We want to be in edit mode for our cube. And once we're in here, you'll see that each vertice on the cube is selectable. If you press A, that'll select everything that you can select. For example, in edit mode, that'll select all the vertices of the cube. Outside in object mode, if I press A, since the cube's the only thing in the scene, that's the only thing that's going to be selected. But if we press A while there's two cubes, it selects all the cubes again. Anyways, back to edit mode on the cube. 1, 2, and 3 switches us between vertice, edge, and face select mode. You'll like different situations need different like selections. So if you need to move a single vertice to make this cube pointy, you can do that. But if you need to bring this edge out, oh, sorry, I should also explain that I'm moving the vertice by pressing G. The main keys are G, S, and R. G is how you grab and move things. S scales up and down objects. And R rotates. If you don't want to use the shortcuts, then you can access these gizmos on the left-hand side. And like if you hover over the icon, it'll tell you the name of the gizmo and what it does. And you can do that for any of these icons. They're all very useful in their own ways. But for now, let's press A and then scale down our cube just a bit. Actually, let me drop this. I have an image of a switch on my files. I will drop into Art Workshops. Y'all could download that. We're gonna be using it in a second. Always good to have reference, even when 3D modeling, or especially when 3D modeling, because you need to know how things look if you're gonna make them. We're gonna go back into object mode, and then wherever you downloaded your image, you can just drag and drop it from the file explorer, and it'll appear in Blender as this flat plane. I'm gonna zero out the coordinates and also the rotation. So we have a nice switch to look at. Sorry, I'm gonna get some water. All right. Gonna select the cube again and then press tab to put it in edit mode. First thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna click the loop cut tool. The shortcut for this is Control-R. And we're gonna cut the cube in half. And then next thing is that I'm gonna change it to wireframe mode, or I guess wireframe view, I should say. Pressing Z brings up this radial menu, and it changes how the viewport. I should not have clicked render. Rendered is it's gonna render the scene, and it takes the longest time to load up because it's like actually computing how it would look if there's lighting and stuff in it. Fortunately, there's no light, so it didn't take as long as it normally would. But usually, I look at solid, material preview, or wireframe mode. Press Z, and it'll bring up the radial menu. You can also access change the shading with the top right icons, these little circle things. Change that. Okay. And the reason why we cut the cube in half is because make sure you're in vertex mode, by the way. We cut it in half because I want to do less work. So what I'm gonna do is delete the left side, or all of the left vertices. And if you change it back to solid, you'll see that, oh man, I only have half a cube now. How am I supposed to play my Nintendo Switch with only one Joy-Con and half a screen? Well, what I'm gonna do now is I guess it doesn't matter. I'm gonna click this wrench icon. It's one of the tabs in the property window. And then I'm gonna add a modifier. Gonna click mirror. And now, whoa, I have a whole cube again. How to do that? The mirror modifier just, as you can guess, mirrors the model. It depends on where the origin of the model is. If you don't set the mirror objects parameter to anything, like there's nothing, so it's just mirroring based off of where this orange dot is. Like if I changed where the orange or like the mesh, it's mirroring based off of the origin. But it's kind of like further down the line if you do more modeling. Origin points are pretty important, but for our purposes right now, we don't have to pay attention to that too much. Okay. All right, we're gonna go back into edit mode. We're gonna check this box called clipping. This basically just keeps all of the middle vertices locked in the middle so that it doesn't go anywhere it doesn't need to go. Okay, now that we've done that, I'm gonna press A, then I'm gonna scale it along the y-axis. So I'm gonna press S and then Y. And so whenever you press R or G or S, if you want to move something, rotate something, or scale something along a specific axis, if you press the shortcut and then X, Y, or Z, it'll lock it to that axis. So I'm gonna scale it up until it's about the height of the switch. And then I'm gonna go into face mode, click this face. I'm gonna press G and then X, and that'll lock it to the X axis, and I can move it all the way to where the switch ends. It's not perfect, so I'm gonna move this down a little bit. Okay, if you go into, you should cover the entire thing by now, which is why go back into wireframe mode. I'm gonna go back to edit mode and go back to face selection. Actually, no, I'm gonna press 2, go to edge selection, and I'm gonna click these 2 edges. And then, actually, sorry, I'm gonna do a loop cut first, because if I do that, it'll mess things up. I'm gonna loop cut, and then move that loop cut right around where the Joy-Con is. Gonna go back to edge select mode, and then do that again.
So my loop cut's like snapping to the center.
If you're using the shortcut, or actually that doesn't matter. It does snap to the center at first, but then if you just keep holding down the left mouse button, you should be able to drag it where you want it to go. But yeah, it'll default to the center first. And if you want more loop cuts, you just scroll up. Wait, sorry, I think you gotta, if you do Control R and then scroll up and down. Wait. Yeah. Control R. You can. Oh yeah, that's right. It'll be right here. You can change the amount of cuts the loop cut makes. Oh, yeah. Because I'm just such a big shortcut user, I always forget that exists, but yeah. A lot of the times whenever you use a tool, in the bottom bottom left hand corner, there will be a window that pops up that has more options for whatever tool you're doing, and it'll like let you adjust more changes with a higher level of detail. Whew, okay, back to this edge select mode. We're gonna click these corners. Oh wait, I think I may, oh no, just kidding. I'm gonna click these corners and then we're gonna click bevel. And then we're gonna left click and then drag this so that it starts beveling the corner. I'm gonna go to this view, and then you're gonna wanna hold the left mouse button and then scroll up so that there's more subdivisions. You'll see that there's now 3 face, or I guess 4 faces per edge now, and it rounds out the corner a lot more nicely. It really smooths it out. All right, and then I'm gonna go back to solid shading. I'm gonna right click, and then this is a very good button, shade smooth. It makes the shading smoother. As you can see, it's a little too smooth, so it's like a bar of soap. And so what we're gonna do to make that look a little bit nicer is I'm gonna go to this green triangle. This is object data properties in the properties tab. And then I'm gonna click the normals drop down, and then I'm gonna click auto smooth. And oh, it looks so much better. Like, oh, doesn't look quite like a switch yet, but it looks like, you know, a more pleasing bar of soap, I guess. A delicious Altoids tin. Yes, Digo? Let me go back. So I am in edit mode. I set it to edge select mode and selected the 2 corners. I went to the left side, clicked bevel. This little like pin appears, and then I'm gonna hold left click and drag. And while I'm holding left click, I'm scrolling up, and it should add more faces to the bevel. Okay. Now I'm gonna go back to this top view. I like using this top right hand gizmo thingy to get like the specific views that I want of the object. I'm gonna go back to wireframe mode, and I'm still in edit mode, by the way. I'm gonna click this edge. Whoa. I'm gonna click this edge, and I'm going to bevel it. And this is what happens whenever you bevel like a single edge. It kind of like just makes this triangle shape. Usually you just want to bevel corners, but you can get creative with it and use it how you like. Okay, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna press X, delete faces on that selection. So now you should have like this little cut to, there's like a little there's a switch inside this loop box. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press 2, gonna shift and left click all of these edges. I'm gonna press F. So in edit mode, if you press F while having like vertices selected, it'll fill in the gaps with a face. And so now we have this little notch to show that it's like a Joy-Con, I suppose. All right. I'm gonna, my switch is a little bit thick, so I'm gonna scale it down on the Z axis to thin it out a bit. Okay. All right, it's starting to come together, but this guy needs buttons. So I'm gonna go to object mode, gonna press Shift A, and that's a shortcut for the add menu. You can also click the add menu right here to add new objects. I'm gonna make a cube, and what I'm gonna do is put a modifier on this cube. Again, that's the wrench add modifier, and I'm gonna click subdivision surface. What this modifier does is it basically rounds out all of the edges of like a sharp mesh, I guess. Like as you can see, this cube is now more ball shaped. And if I add more levels, this top number, it'll add more subdivisions to it and also rounds it out. And so this is a good way to like make really round meshes for your models. Since we're keeping it low poly, I'm just gonna leave it at 1. Gonna right click on it and shade smooth. And now it's a little more ball looking, button-esque. So I'm gonna press S and scale it down. I'm gonna go back to wireframe. And I'm gonna press G and move it over here. Doesn't have to be perfect, first model and everything. So we're just gonna put it over the X, and I'm gonna scale it down till it's about the right size. Gonna press G and then Z to put it about where I want it to be. Oh yeah, if you want to zoom in on like a smaller object or an object in the distance, then you can press the tilde key. And it'll bring up this radial menu. It has different view options, but I usually just use it to view selected, and then it'll focus in on the object that you have selected. And I just have this little dude peep out a little bit. I'm gonna scale it along the Z axis to make it a little bit flatter. It looks pretty buttony. And then I'm gonna go back to wireframe. You can duplicate objects by having them selected in object mode. You can also duplicate things in edit mode, but for right now, we're gonna press Shift D to duplicate the button, and I'm gonna put them where the buttons belong. All right. Got it. Those are 4 buttons. And now I'm gonna shift and left mouse button all the buttons and press Control J. And that joined all of the meshes into one. As you can, if you look in the hierarchy, you'll see that all of the cube duplicates get named like this. And then once I press Control J while the mouse is in the viewport window, it all combines into one mesh. Okay. And then I'm gonna go to wireframe mode. I'm gonna press Shift D on the object I just made. I'm gonna move it to where it should be on the left Joy-Con. Yeah, again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to look at least a bit like a switch. Oh, there's another button. Okay, so I'm gonna select this set of buttons, gonna press tab. I'm going to go into face select mode. I'm gonna click one of the button's faces. Gonna press Control L. What Control L does, it's the shortcut for selecting linked all, and it basically selects like all of the faces connected to each other. That's within something called a seam, which I think I'll explain in a future workshop, but for now, for all purposes, it'll just select all of the faces connected to the single mesh. And then I'm gonna press P. That separates the faces from the current objects. And then I'm gonna click selection. So now it's back to having a single button, but these three are still connected. Gonna go back to wireframe mode. I'm gonna take that single button and then I'm gonna press Shift D to move it over where the home button should be. Now we have what a home button should be. And I guess for now, to save some time, we'll just call this the screenshot button, a circle button too. All right. We're gonna take this button and then gonna press Shift D again. I'm gonna move it over to the joystick. Then I'm gonna scale it up to be about the size of a joystick. I'm gonna press G, it's gonna move it above the switch a little bit. And I'm gonna go to the modifiers and then apply the modifier. So now whenever I press the edit, you can see that it's no longer like those faces as it was before, because the modifiers actually, like, once you apply the modifiers, it changes the mesh completely. So if you want to like make sure certain things are editable in the future, it's best to save modifiers till the end to make sure that you make all of the changes, or you only want to confirm your changes at the very end so that you can keep things a lot more flexible. I'm going to click these four faces. Now ungroup. You press P and that'll separate your selected faces from the mesh. Okay. Again, clicking selecting these four faces. Yeah, no problem. Later. I'm going to inset the faces, and that kind of just like makes that like face group again, but like smaller. Not really sure how to explain inset, but you kind of like get it when you see it. Anyways, I'm gonna make that a bit smaller, and I'm gonna press E, and E stands for extrude, and that'll bring out faces. It does look quite mushroom-esque. I selected all the faces in this cylinder. I guess now it's a cylinder by pressing Alt left click along this edge, and that selects like a loop. So if I click on edge and then Alt left click on this edge, it selects the whole loop. So it's pretty useful for selecting things faster. Anyways, I'm gonna scale this down a little bit, scale it on the Z a little bit to make it a little thinner. Now it's pretty mushroomy. I'm gonna back to edit mode, go to wireframe, gonna scale this along the Z, and then I'm gonna bring it down a bit because it is not that tall. Okay. Now we have something that's pretty switch looking. Let's make it have the switch colors. I'm gonna select the image we have of the switch and bring it down so that we can see it. I'm gonna click on the joystick. I'm gonna click on material properties in the properties window. I'm gonna click new. Oh, it's thinking. And that just makes a new material. I'm gonna click on base color, or I'm gonna click this color block in the base color. I'm gonna click the eyedropper tool. I'm gonna click on the dark joystick, the darker part of the joystick. Now we got a dark colored joystick. I'm gonna do that again for the other buttons that are this color. Oh wait, there's a joystick on this side too. I'm gonna shift D right over there. Okay. The whole switch is also this color, so I guess I'll just do that too. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to apply the mirror modifier so that we can make the Joy-Cons different colors. Because right now we can only edit this one side. So I need to apply the modifier to the mesh. Now we have both sides. I'm gonna click all of the faces that are on the Joy-Con. And I'm going to go back to the materials tab. I'm gonna click this plus button. That'll add a new material slot. I'm gonna click new, make a new material. I'm gonna set this materials color to be the color of the Joy-Con. Now it hasn't changed yet because I need to click assign while having the material I want selected. So now it's really bright. I'm gonna turn down the specular and turn up the saturation a little bit. I'm gonna do this on the other side to make it blue. Again, need to add material, new color picket, and assign. And this is also bright, so I'm going to turn down the specular. The specular changes like how reflective the surface is, and the Joy-Cons are matte, so they're not very reflective. I'm gonna go back to edit mode, and I'm gonna go to edge select, gonna alt click on all of the edges. For both the top and bottom. And then I'm gonna bevel them to smooth it out a bit. No. And now you kind of got a switchy looking thing. I kind of went more ham in the the one I did for this one because I had a lot more time. But now you'd have something that I'd call a low poly switch, I guess. Switch light, switch adjacent. Yeah, we can add the screen. That'll take a second. I'm just gonna select the face where the screen is. Gonna inset this face. Oh, don't want to inset it too much because that'll cause some funkiness to happen. Then I'm gonna scale it with the screen. And then I'm gonna make a new material. And I'm gonna up the metallic and the specular. I'm gonna assign it. And I'm gonna make the base color darker. Actually, I'm gonna make this material darker too. And also turn down the specular. Oh, it's real dark. Now you can see there's like whenever you're in material preview, it has like a sort of fake light box, skybox in it that lets you view specular material. So you can sort of see like the reflection whenever I move around the camera. We could have added like a texture or something, but I decided to save that for later on because texturing is a whole thing. But yeah, this looks like a switch IMO. Hope y'all learned a thing or two. Control S. I guess something that we should do before it everything is join it into, oops. That's what happens whenever you join a object before applying all of your modifiers. I'm gonna just do the shortcut for it, which is Control A, visual geometry to mesh, applies all modifiers to the mesh. No. All right. Now it's a switch. I hope you guys learned something. And white screen switch. But yeah, that is the basics of Blender. There'll be another workshop that'll be longer that goes over more modifiers and things like texturing and like cool 2.5D stuff that you can do with Blender too, that I plan on doing later on. But for now, hope that this gets you started and stuff. It's a bit late now. I'm really I had to cut off doing the shoulder buttons, but it's close enough to a Switch. But yeah, please go home and eat food. Any questions before I go home and eat food? I don't know. Karina brought me food that I might eat, but I also have leftovers. It's like egg rolls and fried rice from my family. That's pretty good. Or I'll make pasta. I've been kind of wanting pasta. I messed up making carbonara the other night, and I want to try it again.
Did you scramble the eggs?
I scrambled the eggs, bro. It was messed up. It was hard. We'll see. We'll see. Kind of depends on how much work I feel like putting in after I get home today. Switch. Yeah. Make a game to play on the Switch.
Oh my gosh. That sounds complicated. It's a 3D game, but it's a 2D graphics just on the Switch. Yep. All right, that's everything. Thank you guys for coming. We'll post all of our stuff in the server, and we have another game to work on next week. It is gonna be 3D physics. Ooh, nice.